Negronis with Nord, episode 54. We have Merrill Hersam, the VP of Creator Success at Urban Legend. We are going to be talking about how creators, influencers can use their influence for good, how we can support more cause-based organizations, and ideally make some money in doing so. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, usually when we have guests, there will be influencers. I feel like this is maybe one of the first guests we've had from another organization that does something kind of similar to what Ford does, but in a different world. So first, maybe tell me, what does Urban Legend do?
Yeah, so Urban Legend is an influencer marketing platform for ideas, never products. And what that typically looks like is social, cultural, economic, environmental, mental health, parenting issues and topics. And most of our clients are kind of nonprofits and cause-based organizations. And we operate on what we call a cost per action model. So essentially all of our campaigns are tied to a real world tangible action, which might be, clicks to an informative landing page, it might be petition signatures, might be letters to lawmakers. And we pay creators kind of based on how many of those actions their content drives. So it's similar to an affiliate model, but rather than asking your followers to spend money, you're asking them to kind of drive change with you.
I think it's hard in beauty, fashion, lifestyle to pay people just on results. Have you all found as that market matures, is that a model that influencers are excited about? Is it hard sometimes? Is it that they need to try it once and they're like, oh, actually I can make a lot of money doing this? How's that generally work?
I mean, honestly, if this were 2 years ago, we would have gotten a very different response, but I think the climate has definitely changed in the influencer marketing industry. People are a lot more receptive to this model. And I mean, especially given kind of the economic climate right now, I think people are excited to get, any deals. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it's a lot better for the clients, and creators end up making more money than they do for typical flat fee posts a lot of the time. Yeah. They just aren't expecting it. Yeah. But yeah, definitely there's been a shift in the industry when it comes to CPM type of stuff. Yeah.
I was excited to have you on today and excited about what y'all do, because we're a year and a half or so out from the election, and we have talked about it for years that we believe that influencers need to make sure they balance the product-based content or the them-based content, which is great, all of that is fun and needs to happen, with some cause-based stuff, right? And if you think about how in the kind of one world of the 1%ers of wealth, there's this expectation that you're going to give some of that money away.
Yes.
And it's almost like a thing you kind of have to do, even if you don't want to. Mm-hmm. I guess unless you're like Steve Jobs. He was one that was like, all those people. I'm not giving any money to charity. I don't know why, but it's was not his thing. He built a very nice boat for himself, though. We never got to step foot on it, sadly. But I digress. We believe influencers are kind of like that digital 1%, right? They have more influence, they reach more people than certainly 99% of the rest of the world. And so we have this belief that they kind of have to give some of that up. With the elections coming up, and I think there will be more focus on influencers using their kind of feeds for good. I wonder if you can give a little sense of what are some of the ways they're more tangible to help, right? So that I'm not just, posting that I hate Donald Trump, or when something terrible happens, like school shooting today, I'm not just kind of reacting to terrible things happening in the world and trying to support them, but that I'm able to support organizations more consistently through time.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that the first step is figuring out what you align with and what you care about. And I think a lot of the people sometimes haven't taken the time to explore the things that they really care about and how they can get involved. So that's definitely the first step. And it comes to kind of start seeding it in, especially if you haven't really spoken about this stuff to your audience, to kind of seed it in little by little and get them used to you talking and kind of your views and understanding.
And what about if I'm well, look, I'm a beauty influencer. This is not a political space. I'm nervous that if I start talking about gun control or reproductive rights or whatever it might be that you're passionate about personally, that I'm going to alienate some of my audience.
Yeah, I mean, it can definitely be scary, but as long as you're passionate about a topic and well educated on a topic, you can typically convey it to your followers well. like I said before, like seeding it in little by little, getting them used to it. But I think it is so important for these creators to start talking about things they care about, especially with everything going on in the world.
One of the things that, again, I think was so interesting is the focus on kind of like action-based things, right? I sign this petition, I do this thing, and it's like less about fundraising. I think that like influencers, you sometimes feel like the thing I need to do is like drive towards a fundraiser, right? And you can obviously do fundraising through Instagram directly. I think some people maybe feel a little nervous about that because it says the amount that you've raised, right? And so if you've only raised like $80 of a $2,000 goal, like maybe you're gonna feel like kind of shitty about that. You're someone like me that doesn't understand the nonprofit world. Like, how do things like signing a petition, like what are some of those like action things that your clients are looking to achieve? What are they? And like, how does that like, how do those things help? Because again, I think for influencers, they're kind of sometimes like, I don't know what to do. Okay, I find, let's talk about gun control because it's unfortunately timely for today, right? So I want to support organizations that are fighting for gun control. I can just send them $100 today. What are those other things that I can do?
Yeah, I mean, definitely awareness is a huge part of the conversation. If you look at kind of the statistics of kind of Gen Z, who are mostly kind of the consumers of social media, their kind of voting statistics have really shot up since it became more normalized for creators to kind of talk about these issues. So definitely awareness is a big part. Pushing petitions, of course. We also have one of our like quote unquote actions that we work with is letters to lawmakers, calls to representatives, which has been really, really impactful. You kind of get a direct line to the source, which is really nice. And you're kind of, the beauty of being a creator and sort of working with Urban Legend is you are crowdsourcing kind of change, which is very, very nice.
I will see some of my more like wonky political friends posting about, when there is like a push for change in some way, right? Call your representative. Like for the beauty, the fashion influencers out there that don't understand this world as much. Is it like money, sign a petition, call your representative? Like how important are each of these steps?
I mean, honestly, they're all important in different ways. When it comes to kind of fundraising, obviously there's a purpose for that. We don't really touch anything on the fundraising point because a big part of our mission is just not asking creators to ask their followers to spend any money. The awareness is very important. Again, like one of our actions is clicks to informative landing pages. So that's a way that a lot of people are just not informed on a lot of important topics, and kind of when a nonprofit can give you a source to kind of understand something easily, it's very impactful, as well as petition signatures. We recently ran there was a ruling coming up by the Biden administration. And after our campaign, they actually delayed the ruling and postponed the ruling because of all of the kind of chatter on social media. So even if it is just kind of, letters to lawmakers or social media chatter, it is so impactful and so important to kind of talk about these things.
Let's say I am interested in helping out with Everytown, right? And I could certainly follow them on social. I could see what they're talking about and amplify it. But like, are there ways, I think like, we talk a lot on this show about how, for influencers, most brands that they want to work with, that's just like one person, right? They just have to find the person that works at Fenty who does this, right? And then they can just reach out to them, and if they can get them interested and create a relationship, then boom, all these huge brands are actually just like a collection of people. So do you have any insight on the nonprofit side of like how that works, and how somebody who might say, look, I've been sharing these posts, but ultimately like it would be helpful to like be a bit more embedded in this organization, understand what's important to you, and be able to like plan some of my content around that. Like how do they build that relationship? Is it similar to just like cold emailing the like person who was at Fenty?
It can be similar to cold emailing. A lot of the times, like Instagram DMing really does work a lot. LinkedIn is very helpful when it comes to kind of finding the right contacts in the digital marketing space. If creators want to work with organizations directly, there are definitely avenues. But, they can also sign up for Urban Legend.
And is there a way to, like, how consistently could I be doing this, right? Because as a beauty creator, let's say I'm doing, 25 in-feed posts a month, I could presumably do 10 to 15 of those even sponsored. Like how often would I have the opportunity to do this if I was going to sign up with Urban Legend? And like how connected is, well, I think my next question will be kind of how do y'all pick people or how does that work? But yeah, how much work is there out there to do stuff like this?
Yeah, so I mean, all of our campaigns are opt-in, so creators can kind of, the way that our model works is anything a creator sees, they're pre-approved for. So they can kind of pick and choose whatever they're interested in and kind of post that almost immediately. We actually don't give creators deliverables. They can craft their own. So it's very easy for them to kind of just log in, see the campaign brief, and within 30 seconds they can post if they really wanted to.
Your title is a VP of Creator Success, right? So like obviously in the organization, I assume you are thinking about creators, thinking about how you can make things more clear, how you can make it more effective, and ultimately how they can make more money and your clients can kind of hit their KPIs. But how much education do you feel like you're having to do? And because I know it's something we really focus on is like, trying even in our briefs to guide them to like a better way to do this stuff. So how much do you feel like you're having to educate people and help them, especially if they're feeling like, oh shit, I haven't like posted about much political stuff before, I'm a little nervous to do this.
Yeah, I mean, we honestly give them a lot of education, but it can be as much or as little as they want. The process of kind of onboarding influencers is we actually do a full interview with them. We talk about their goals, kind of what they're looking for as far as a platform partnership, kind of the things that they care about, their values, so that we can kind of match them to campaigns well enough. We, are happy to kind of walk them through the content creation process. Our creative briefs are very we give them the issue and topic at hand, we give them potential talking points, and we also give them a full blurb on like the organization sponsoring it, so they kind of know where the money is coming from as well. So typically we give them a lot of education, but it's never in a way that's kind of too wonky or complicated to understand. We like to kind of make sure that we're knowing our audience when we're bringing creators, especially some more like complicated, sometimes policy related issues. Sometimes you have to kind of break it down for them. But again, like we don't want creators really opting into campaigns that they don't necessarily care about either. So we will be kind of using the vernacular that, makes sense for the topic as a way to kind of ensure that people are kind of opting into the right things.
Obviously being action-based and like performance-based, you're seeing a campaign where some stuff is working really well, some stuff is not working so well for people. What have you found like consistently, thematically, where like the people that like end up being able to drive a lot of action, like what is the kind of consistent thing either in their content or what their kind of audience looks like? Like what are the things that are working?
So it's very interesting because we're often surprised by, a lot of the time someone with a ton of followers could drive not that much action, whereas someone with a smaller following really may. And at the end of the day, what it really comes down to is authenticity. If you're authentic and you really care about the topic and you're able to talk about it in a way where you obviously know what you're talking about, that's what converts. It doesn't have to do with follower size. It doesn't even have to do with content type a lot of the time. It doesn't have to do with what platform you're on. The authenticity piece is really kind of the running factor that makes for a successful campaign, especially in these, in any kind of part of influencer marketing, right? But especially when it comes to kind of like advocacy, issue-based marketing, it's very, very important.
There's obviously people who are activists, who this is what their content is about, this is what their life is about, this is their main focus. And then there's people who like maybe are just passionate about a thing, and probably have some who are just kind of like, I'm interested to try this out and kind of help out. Do you feel like the accounts that are like purely activists do better than people who are kind of dabbling in it for the first time? Is there any difference there?
It kind of depends. Again, it just kind of really comes down to the way that they are able to express the issue and the topic. It definitely varies, and not all of our campaigns are super, super advocacy based either. A lot of it, we do some stuff in like online safety for children or mental health or things that are a little more like middle of the road, which is why we have such kind of a broad network of creators of all different types so that we can kind of fill campaigns accordingly. So it very much kind of depends.
So what are some of the determining factors as you look at your kind of group of creators that are on the platform, of who sees this opportunity versus who doesn't?
Well, a lot of it comes down to the interview process that we do with creators before we onboard them. We kind of take usually 15 minutes to a half hour to just really sit down with them and figure out what it is they care about. And also, we know creators are busy. We don't want to waste their time with showing them campaigns that, certain platforms you scroll through and it's just not what you're looking for. So we kind of take a lot of time to get to know the creators, figure out what it is that they really care about, especially when a lot of the times the topics that we're talking about are very personal to these people. It's very important to kind of really get to know them. And that's kind of how we kind of distribute the campaigns, is based on what they've shared with us. And a lot of the times during that initial interview, they might not share something that, later on they'll come down to us and say, hey, I've decided I really want to talk about this issue. And we'll be like, great, here you go.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I assume you're kind of getting like some kind of, what are things you absolutely don't want to do, but then like generally what is the kinds of stuff you're interested in?
Exactly, yeah. And it's really nice because a lot of the times, like, maybe their content doesn't necessarily reflect something that they're really interested in talking about, and they're kind of looking for an opportunity or a way to talk about a certain subject, and they just really haven't had the chance.
I assume you're doing some of this interviewing with creators, or you're involved in some of it.
Yes.
We hear all the time in questions of people being like, oh, I want to like start to talk about beauty, like how do I do it, you know? And it's like, you just fucking start talking about it. I don't know.
You just learn, you educate yourself, and
And have you had the experience of like having someone who's a little like nervous about it, who then does a campaign and it goes really well, and is like, you get to talk to them again and they're kind of like, oh, that was like amazing? Because I think again, like, as I think about who's watching this video, and it's a lot of creators who, probably have not, outside of sharing some posts of some organizations that they support or causes, haven't gotten like actively involved in this, and certainly have never done like a paid, something paid. So any like stories of people that you feel like, have, outside the money, have kind of come back and said like, wow, this has been like hugely like beneficial?
Obviously the monetization helps, but a lot of the time they just don't know where to start. They don't know where to get educated. And then that's part of kind of what works with us, is because all of the education comes from the nonprofits themselves. But a lot of the times once they start talking about it, if they're able to do it in a kind of educated, coherent manner, the results are amazing. The audiences like to say kind of, we were talking about this the other day, you kind of look at the creators you follow like they're your friends. And nobody wants a surface level friend. Yeah. So you want to kind of know what they are interested in. You want to know their values. You want to know, and this could open up another conversation about parasocial relationships, right? But it's very important, and like the stronger your connection with your audience and the more they know you, the better engaged they're going to be. So, the results are often very positive.
Yeah. I think generally like the influencer space is looked down upon, right? Is like unserious and kind of silly. And I think like a lot of that is like deep-rooted sexism, and the fact that this is like a very women-led like industry, and like generally then, and it's talking a lot about clothes and makeup and and all of that is seen as silly and unserious, which obviously is like deeply upsetting and annoying and dumb and ignorant, right? Y'all are more on the front line, we sometimes, we'll see like, oh wow, we sold a lot of makeup this week, which is like great, and that like makes people happy and we feel good about that. But y'all are getting a kind of different view into this. Is there, any kind of comment just on the power a like creator can have to enact change?
Yeah, I mean, it's really unbelievable. A lot of creators are starting to become more and more involved. Their followings are huge, and like I said before, kind of it shows in the numbers. Gen Z is voting in kind of droves that is kind of unprecedented, and it comes from, I think, one person starting to talk about it makes another person feel more comfortable, makes the next person feel more comfortable, and suddenly you're kind of surrounded by creators who are able to talk about things that they care about. So it's more just kind of about like normalizing it and accepting it, and kind of the people who are doing it being able to do it well. Yeah. Yeah.
And we were just talking about the like potential TikTok ban, and it's really interesting that a big part of their strategy was bringing big creators to Washington, and talking about how these people have built a business here, and how like it's going to impact this whole kind of ecosystem of these new entrepreneurs. And again, interesting how this incredibly powerful organization met with an existential threat is like bringing creators to try and make the case for them, right?
Exactly. Like creator voices are so important, and it just goes to show.
And we've seen Biden administration bringing, creators in to the White House more, no matter what the administration is. I think we're going to see more and more of this. And it is validating to see, governments now and some of the most powerful organizations in the world being like, oh, we need to like make this point. We're going to use creators.
Exactly. So like what we're doing at Urban Legend is just kind of like a microcosm of that,
I think that I'm so glad that, this business exists.
Yeah.
And that y'all are continuing to normalize this and monetize it. I think it is really important to make sure that people can make money doing this, because ultimately, like, those posts have value. And I think if it's one thing to say, hey, you should be giving your feed over to like supporting organizations, which is true, but I do think that like you were right about how one person talks about it, it inspires another person, and so on and so forth, even if they don't necessarily align on that issue.
Yeah. And the monetization piece is also really important, because there are creators out there who are very issue-based, very advocacy-based, and they're not able to monetize. A lot of people think they're going to do things for free, and they're not necessarily being approached by, typical direct-to-consumer brands, which is kind of the large majority of influencer marketing. So it is very hard for them to monetize. They're not making money off of the platforms, obviously. So to kind of give them an avenue to be able to make money off of things that they're already talking about is very unique.
That's fantastic. Well, look, thank you so much for sitting down with us today.
Thank you for having me.
And y'all, if you want to talk to Merrill, you can just sign up and she'll interview you, and you get to talk about yourself for like 15 or 20 minutes. And then, hopefully make some money and support some causes and do some good in the world, right?
It's a win-win.
Beautiful.